Hello, and thank you for coming to Alan's IEP meeting. I am Megan Wheeler. I am Alan's special education teacher. We will start this meeting by introducing the rest of the participants. We have Alan's mom, Jamie. We have Trevor Siebert, who is our principal. We have Caitlin Hageman, who is our special education social worker. Larry McManaman, who is our school psychologist. And Tana Riffle, who is Alan's general education math teacher. So we are meeting today to go over the results of some assessments that were conducted over the last several weeks with Alan, and to see how the results of those assessments can help us moving forward in his academic career. So I like to start meetings with the strengths of a student, and Alan has a lot of strengths. So those include the fact that he participates really well in class. He'll raise his hand. He will answer questions. He's not shy about that. He does a great job of demonstrating high level of comprehension when he hears content read aloud to him. So basically, if it's a science passage and it's read out loud to him, Alan can summarize to you what was being read and answer any questions you might have about the content of the material. He takes great notes in class. Whatever the teacher's writing down, Alan is also writing down. He asks for help when he needs it almost all the time. And he uses his talk to text function on his Chromebook very well. This allows him to be much more independent while completing writing assignments. When he's reading a passage and it comes across a word that is unfamiliar, 99% of the time, he will try to decode it or sound it out. So if he tries to sound it out and he doesn't feel like he got it quite right, then he will ask for help for it. And he also does a great job of self-correcting when he is doing reading intervention exercises. So that means that if he's read something and then he realizes that it's not quite right, he'll go back and reread it. So his accuracy level is where he wants it to be. He's got pretty high expectations for himself. So we want to use Alan's strengths and the results of these assessments to help him be the best student that he can be. So we are going to start with the 3 informal assessments that were performed. There was a quick phonics screener, which is conducted to see how well a student interprets sounds, how well that student hears sounds, and how well that student is able to use those skills in order to sound out or decode unfamiliar words. And that is abbreviated as QPS, Quick Phonics Screener. And we'll be looking at the results of that here in just a moment. We also did Read Naturally Level 3, and this tests how quickly, or his fluency, how quickly he reads, how many words per minute, and also how accurate that reading is. So how many words did he say correctly versus how many words were said incorrectly. The rest of the screeners that were performed were focused on his math skills. So we are going to start with the quick phonics screener. The screener, we're having a little bit of trouble being able to see the screen very well, but the screener tests several different categories. We've got the consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, and consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant words that were tested. The silent E and consonant, vowel, consonant, followed by an E words are controlled vowels. So those are words where the R used in the word determines how the vowel sounds. Consonant digraphs. Those are 2 consonants working together to make one sound. So cheese. So the CH, 2 letters, 1 sound, cheese. Vowel digraphs and diphthongs, which is a very similar concept. It's 2 vowels working together to make one sound, as in read or meet. that EA working together to make the one sound. Prefixes and suffixes was the next category. So tagging on additional letters to the beginning of a word and to the end of the word. And then he went through some lists of 2-syllable, 3-syllable, and 4-syllable words. So on it, here we can see that he did not do as well on the list of the words. He's much more successful when the words are presented in context or in a sentence. So on the CD, CC, and CCVC category, he got about 67% on the list. That's how many words he got correct. But he got 100% on the words that he read when they were in a sentence. The silent E, pretty much the same as with the list, about 65, 66%. And he ended up getting 85 to 90% on his words that were used in context. The R-controlled vowels, both in the list and in context, measured right at 80%. Consonant digraphs. The list of those words was a little tougher. So he ended up getting about 50% of those words correct when they were listed and 60% when they were in context. Now, the last 4 categories were all list. So we're looking at the prefixes and suffixes. He got about 70% on that. 2-syllable words, he got 80% of those words correct. 3-syllable words, he got 50% of those words correct. And 4-syllable words, he got 80% of those words correct. So something we know from this is that when we're teaching new words, he does much better when they are within a sentence or a paragraph. He uses his context clues to figure out how to sound out that word or the meaning of that word. So we're going to look next at, his read naturally results. Now, read naturally is a passage that is read every day for 4 days. And then we graph on the first day how many correct words were read per minute and how many words were read correctly on the last day. And it's fun to see the improvement from the first day to the last day. So words per minute, we saw a dramatic improvement. So on 411, his first reading, he had 88 words per minute. By 414, which was his last reading, he was reading at a speed of 124 words per minute. So a huge increase there. What that tells me is that the more exposure he has to content, the more comfortable he is getting through it. His accuracy rate was really very high. I know it looks like this is a dip, but it actually just starts out very high at 96.6%, moves up to 98%, 98.4, and 98.4 again. So again, that is a result of him doing the self-correcting that we discussed earlier in his strengths. And that helps that accuracy level just be really excellent. So we'll look at the last informal assessment that was done, which is a math diagnostic. And this system is entitled Math Diagnostic Intervention System. And it tests certain aspects of a student's math knowledge. Now, for this particular test, we had equations, inequalities, expressions, and graphs. Now, these are all areas in which Alan and his peers are tested for state testing. So we wanted to get a feel for how well he was performing in those particular areas. As you can see, he performed very well in all the areas. He got about 85% on the graphs and the rest were 100%. What this tells me is that he is absolutely capable of doing math that is on grade level for him. So that is not a concern that I have. So that was the end of the informal assessments. The next type of assessment that was performed is called a norm reference assessment. Now, the norm reference assessment means that it is testing their skills on whatever subject it is that you're discussing and comparing it to that of his peers, okay, the performance against that of his peers. So the norm reference assessment that was used with Alan is one that is used district-wide at Center, and it is the FastBridge assessment. And this one in particular, we focused on his A math assessment. Okay, so the A math assessment focuses on many different areas. We've got numbers and operations, statistics and probabilities, geometry and number system, ratios and proportional relationships, functions, expressions and equations, measurement and data, counting and cardinality, operations and algebraic thinking, numbers and operations in base 10. So there's a pretty wide range of scores on these. The ones that I will be specifically talking about are the areas of concern where we have the ratios and proportional relationships and the functions. None of those, along with the statistics and probabilities, none of those questions were answered correctly. So those are areas that'll be focused on as we move forward. So this is telling us he's really strong in counting and cardinality. He does well understanding geometry, measurement and data, numbers and operations in base 10, and operations and algebraic thinking. So we can use his strengths to help him practice those skills that need a little bit of improvement. So what does that mean as far as how he has been performing and how he has shown growth and improvement? So we actually start here in the winter of 2020, and he started down in this area. The 4 areas that are categorized are college pathway, low risk, some risk, high risk. Okay, so we see Alan's line starts out right above the high risk, and it has a steady increase. He got into the low risk category during the fall of 2022-2023 testing period. And then the winter ended up being back into that low risk, or excuse me, some risk category. The expectations for student scores as the year goes on are increased. Okay, so he has shown steady improvement. We would love to see his scores continue to improve and really reflect his abilities. I believe that this does not accurately reflect his math abilities based on the other assessments that we did. So we'll move forward and see the rest of the numbers involved here. So again, this is a norm reference test. So this is Alan's scores compared with those of his peers. So you can see that he was in the 10th percentile in the fall of 2021. He did not take the test in the winter of 2021, 2022. He had left center school and moved out of state, but then he was back. He tested it in the 15th percentile for the spring of that school year. Now, this most recent fall, he tested in the 23rd percentile and then the 15th percentile for his winter testing scores. So nationally, you can see he is in the green. Green is good. So nationally, compared to his peers, this past year and this year, he has been scoring in the 30 to 39th percentile when compared to students his age in the nation. And then his numbers just go up from there. So we are hoping to build on these successes and just keep seeing those scores increasing. This is a test that is done 3 times a year: fall, winter, spring. The spring tests have not yet been conducted. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the numbers are in those tests. The last type of assessment that was conducted was a curriculum-based measurement. So this is work that it looks like a daily math sheet that he might get from Mrs. Riffle. It is not on the computer, although you can do ones that are computer-based. From my observation, I believe that Alan does better when it's paper-based and not on the computer. He kind of gets distracted and disconnects a little bit from the process when he is on the computer. I think that that shows in his FastBridge scores as well. As we're looking at the next 3 math assessments that we did, you'll see why I say that. Okay, April 25th. Again, we used the mathematics diagnostic and intervention system to test Alex's skills. We used a level 5 for him. He answered 23 out of 31 questions correctly on the first try by himself. 74% on that one. What happened after that is we had 1 intervention lesson focusing on the skills in which he struggled a little bit. After that, 1 intervention on April 27th, took the same test, got a 90% on it, 28 out of 31 questions answered correctly. So I consulted with some other professionals and it was suggested that I mix it up a little bit. So we did a different version of level 5 of the MDIS. Well, joke was on me because he ended up getting a perfect score on that. 43 out of 43 questions answered correctly. May 2nd, we switched it up again. We went to an easy CBM test that is gotten from easycbm.com. It was a site that was recommended to me by a colleague. And they have assessments on there that can assess certain categories of skills. The skills that we tested were numbers and operations. Now these skills or these categories were selected because of the scores that we saw on the different categories in FastBridge. So the numbers and operations, the first time he took that assessment, he got 12 out of 16 questions correct, which is 75%. We did 1 intervention lesson and he answered 15 out of 16 questions correctly, earning a 93.7%. All of this tells me that Alan is not lacking in mathematic ability. So what else is there? And this just shows our results in a graph form. This line right here is where he started. The blue line is his baseline. So he started off, remember, at the 74%. So that stays consistent throughout the testing period. This gray line here, that's where we anticipated he would be on each date of testing. Obviously, we were wrong. So he tested much higher than our expectations on the 27th of April and on the 28th of April. Now, the 2nd of May, that's when we switched tests to the easy CBM math assessment. So we dipped down a little bit, 75% the first time he took that test, and went right back up to 93.7% on his final day of testing. So what does all of this mean? So all of this gives us clues as to how we should move forward in his education and what strengths we can emphasize to help with those weaker areas. With Alan's reading, his accuracy is excellent, as we saw in our previous data from the informal assessments. I have also observed during his daily reading intervention time that he works very hard to have very high accuracy. The concern is that his reading level is much lower than that of his peers. He is a 6th grader reading at a 3rd grade level. So we would like to kick that up a notch. So our long-term goal for his reading is that by the next annual IEP, so this time next year, when Alan is given a level 3.5, which is half a level above where he is right now, passage, Alan will read at a rate of 130 words per minute with an accuracy of 85%. This will be measured and monitored by the Read Naturally program that was used to assess him this time as well. We're not going to make that leap all at one time, though, so we're going to try to build from that. So currently, he was reading a maximum of 124 words per minute with 98.4% accuracy with a level 3 reading passage. So we would like to see that go to a higher level of 3.5 and see him within the next 9 weeks improve his rate of reading on a 3.5 level to 110 words per minute with 85% accuracy. So we will hopefully achieve that goal by practicing and just really improving his confidence level in decoding new words and just being able to flow while he's reading. So I trust that he will be showing steady improvement moving forward. Right now, I would like to talk about some of the concerns that I have. So areas that need some improvement. Fluency rate, we already talked about that, as much below that of his peers. He's at about a 3rd grade level fluency rate. We would like to see improvement in that. His spelling, a little iffy, but again, hopefully the practice that we do every day on his phonics training will improve that over time. So we just have to keep working hard consistently every day. My biggest concern, well, 2 biggest concerns, is that we're seeing a lot of absences. So when he's not here and not receiving that practice on a regular basis, he's not performing as well on his daily intervention work. But the thing that I believe is impacting his math performance most significantly is more of a behavioral or psychological unidentified issue, because when he is working one-on-one with me or with another staff member and there's nobody else around, he does it very well. The quality of his work is very high, and he's able to earn A's, B's, and C's in his daily math work by doing that. Now, his FastBridge scores don't reflect that same level of knowledge. So putting those things together tells me that it's either something in the environment is too overstimulating or distracting for him. And so we need to figure out the best way in which to adjust his environment that doesn't make him feel isolated, but will help him feel more comfortable in the math class setting. The biggest indicator I have of his confidence in his own abilities is the fact that he often says, I'm too stupid to do math. I'm too dumb to do this. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. So what we do is every time one comment is made negatively about himself, we have a list of positive affirmations and he has to say 3 of them. So this has somewhat cut down on the verbalization of his doubts in his own abilities, but I fear that it has not yet impacted how he really feels about himself. So if we are going to make progress moving forward in the results that we're seeing across all platforms, meaning daily work, intervention time, state testing, FastBridge testing, all of those things, if we're going to see improvement, we've got to work on his confidence level. So I am going to ask Jamie to participate in this process by helping to boost his self-confidence level. I will send home a list of positive affirmations, and if you could encourage him to say 3 to 5 of those while looking in the mirror every morning and every night, right after getting up and right before going to bed, I do believe that it will eventually change his way of perceiving himself. He's got all the skills needed. We just need to get that confidence to a point where he is performing at his level of capability. So our long-term goal regarding his math is that he will score by May 2024, that he will score 4 out of 5 mastered or developing skills in the areas of ratios and proportional relationships on his FastBridge A math testing. This is measured, it will be measured by Alan's spring FastBridge A math testing session. Currently, that section category scored 0% this most recent testing period. So we're not going to be shooting up to 4 out of 5 from 0 out of 5 all at once. So we are breaking this down into a smaller goal. And since we are right at the end of school, we're going to focus on the first 9 weeks of the next school year. So by the end of the first 9 weeks in the fall 2023 semester, which will happen in October, Alan will score 2 out of 5 mastered or developing skills in the area of ratios and proportional relationships. This will be measured by his fall A math screener done through FastBridge. So I have every confidence that Alan is capable of reaching these goals and beyond that. If we can just work together to boost his confidence, both at home and at school, and let him know that he's supported and give lots of positive feedback for demonstrating his confidence in his own skills, I think that we can get there. So if there are no questions, we will go ahead and wrap that up for today. Thank you all for coming.